Hello everyone and welcome back to Lucky Loaders 15, where I'll be giving you 4 of my best tips for tomorrow's racing. Now before we get stuck into them, let's quickly just recap on how our selections performed today. In the end, it was a frustrating day again. We came out with a small loss. The only thing to write home about was our only winner of the day. That was Pontefract for Safi Osborne and John Bridger. We put them up at 5-1 last night, and if there hadn't been a Rule 4, we would have come out with a little bit of profit today, but there was a 35p Rule 4, as there were a few non-runners and the field really did cut up, but Safi gave him a perfectly good ride, and he'd been running really well this season, on the last couple of starts as well. He'd been making the frame, he'd even won a race as well, which I think came at Windsor, but he had a great record at Goodwood, and he clearly showed it today that he absolutely loves the track, so he definitely deserved the victory, and like I said, it was a good ride by Safi Osborne. Away from that, the nap was disappointing. Jarvis Plate, don't think he quite stayed 3 miles, and yes, his jumping wasn't the most fluent, but in the end, the two big stars that were dominating the market, because Jarvis Plate was well gambled, 10-3 into around about 15.08, so he was obviously well fancied, but Le Bagua as well, who was our who looked like on paper was the one he had to beat. She didn't exactly turn up either. Yes, she was in the lead for a long way, but she made a couple of errors at a few of jumps, and also as well down the home straight she was knackered, and I wonder if she's maybe better over 2.5 miles. So yeah, I think it was the case a case of that the stars, they didn't quite stay today, and they were beaten by a couple of course specialists. So yeah, very disappointing with Jarvis Plate. And then our other two selections, Spyglass Hill was just really unlucky. He was starting to make a move through the field in the Kerry National for Rachel Blackmore, and even though yes, he had been out the back early on, I think it was a good ploy today. There was a lot of pace up front, and I just think he was really unlucky and would have been there or thereabouts towards the end of the race. Like I said, he was making his move and he was picking them off, and he looked still like he was travelling comfortably within himself. But yeah, the horse in front of him unseated their rider, and it badly hampered him, and that lost all his momentum and any chance of him getting back into the race. So yeah, very frustrating there. And then the same thing happened with the Jolly Maker for John Joe O'Neill Jr. Again, nothing wrong with the performance of the horse, being held up like he likes to be, and they were probably planning on coming with a late run, but the horse fell in front of him, and then he unseated John Joe O'Neill. So it was just one of those days today where the luck wasn't on our side. Nothing we can do about it. You can't complain about jockey tactics or jockey error or the horse not performing. It's just one of those things where the luck was definitely against us. And like I said, if Pontefract hadn't had the Rule 4 and it had won at 5-1, we would have been up in profit today. So yeah, really frustrating in the last couple of days. Obviously we've been in good form for the majority of September, but the last few days, I will admit, have been frustrating, especially as well if you've only been following me in the last week or so. But fingers crossed we can turn that form around tomorrow and get back on the profit train. And let's get stuck into the first tip, which is actually going to be coming with my nap tomorrow in the 3:35 at Newmarket, where I'm going to go with Withhold here in the listed Rose Bowl Stakes. Now, I know he's not the most, it's not going to take a genius to figure him out tomorrow, and I know it's not the biggest price snap I'm ever going to put up, but I think he's got solid credentials. You can currently back him at 2-1, and he's trained by Roger Charlton, and Jason Watson is the jockey booking tomorrow in the colours of Tony Bloom. Now, we actually put Withhold up last time he run in a conditions race at Salisbury, and I thought he was a big price anyway before that race, and he definitely put it up to Trushan. He made it a real stamina test, but in the last half a furlong or so, Trushan was able to put him to bed. But like I said, I thought for a long way Withhold ran a really gallant race, and returning to Newmarket tomorrow is going to be no bad thing. He won this race last year by 6 lengths, and also as well, if you go back through his form, his breakout performance is when he landed a gamble in the Cesarovich Handicap. So it's a track that he does really well at on the Rolling Mile course at Newmarket. He also as well has won on the July course before, so no problems about him there, and he sets the standard. He's likely to get an easy lead. He likes to run from the front. Now, the obvious danger on paper, at least anyway, will be Mildenberger, who he will have to give away a penalty to. to the Mark Johnston runner. But for me, Mildenberger has quite a few questions to answer. Yes, he finished a good second place behind Alnaif Road, who's been the bridesmaid to Stradivarius this season in the Group 1 staying races in the UK. However, for me, Mildenberger, coming back to the turf, can he handle it? He has won at the course before, but a lot of his best performances recently have come on the all-weather, and last time we saw him after a break, he did really need the run. So I just think he might need the run tomorrow, and this is more of a prep race for bigger targets along the way. I wouldn't be at all surprised, actually, if we have another crack on the all-weather later this season. Apparently, the plan is to go for the long-distance cup at Ascot on Champions Day, and if Stradivarius does go to the Arc and doesn't go to Champions Day, then obviously that race is going to be up for grabs and will be a very open renewal in my opinion. But Withhold tomorrow, like I said, he sets the form. He's unbeaten at the course. If there is a little bit of rain around tomorrow, he will be able to handle a little bit of juice. It's currently good to firm, so I imagine that it'll probably still be fairly quickest ground tomorrow because there hasn't been too much rain in Newmarket. But for me, Withhold at 2-1, I expect him to actually go a favourite tomorrow, and I think Mildenberger will be weak in the market. So if you still can get to 2-1, I'm just recording this video after 7:15, so if you can still get the 2-1, I think that is definitely a solid bet there tomorrow. We then go to Pontefract for the 4:20 with my extra tip tomorrow, where I'm going with a horse here called Saluti for Graham Lee and Paul Midgley. Currently back him at 5-1. Now Paul Midgley does very well with his sprinters, and Saluti's been running not too badly this season, has already notched up a couple of wins, including over the course and distance a few starts ago. Now he is going to be running off a mark of 85 tomorrow, which means that he will have to run up to near his best. However, I think he's definitely a dangerous player in this grade. Now he's dropping back to Class 4 and Class 4 handicap, and he's got a good record in this kind of grade. Forgive him his last run, that was in the Portland handicap, which was too competitive for him to land a blow. He was never really going to get involved that day. However, back in a Class 4 tomorrow I think will suit him, and the way the race might set up for him as well I think will be positive. He's got a good draw tomorrow in stall 6. He's a horse that doesn't like to always make the running, but he likes to be just behind the pace, just tracking the leaders. And if Graham Lee can get him into a good position, like I expect him to, I think he's got a good chance of being there or thereabouts tomorrow. And I think at 5-1 there, that's a fair little bit of value for me. So with Paul Midgley doing really well with his sprinters at the moment, and his horses are running well, this horse being on a workable mark, a fair draw, and the race possibly being run to suit, I think he's a dangerous player stepping back into Class 4 company, and that's why he's going to be my extra tip. We then go with my next best, which runs in the 5:30 at Kempton on the all-weather for the Twilight card there. And I'm going to go with a horse here called Tricolore. Now, I nearly made this horse my nap, but he's going to be my next best tomorrow for Stefano Churchy, claiming a handy 5, and he's riding for his boss, Marco Bossi. Now, this horse, Tricolore, brings some fair form to the table, finished in an encouraging 3rd place on debut at Yarmouth, where the form of that race has worked out quite well. And then he ran at Sandown last time out to finish in 4th place. Now, some people might say, yeah, maybe the run at Sandown was a little bit disappointing. However, I think that still was a fair race, because the 2nd place horse of Andrew Bolden has come out and won since. And also as well, he probably wants slightly further up in trip. Now, if you look at the dam side of the pedigree, he actually, the dam side of the pedigree actually has produced a lot of horses that have won over further, that have probably needed 10 furlongs or a mile and a half, and I think stepping up from 7 furlongs to a mile tomorrow is definitely going to suit him. From what we've seen so far, he's a horse that likes to come from off the pace. He's been held up on both his starts. Now, if tomorrow he can maybe get a little bit more advanced position in the field, where he's got a fair draw tomorrow in stall 3, I think he could have a major chance. Also as well, he's by Twilight Sun, who's been going really well this year as a first season sire. And I just think Tricolore tomorrow, moving to the all-weather off a mark of 69, is fairly well treated in this field. And like I said, with Stefano Churchy, who's actually ridden him on both his starts, I expect a lot more improvement to come, and I think he will step up. It will improve for the step up in trip. You can currently get the 5-1 with Bet365, so I think this is a fair price tomorrow, and I wouldn't be at all surprised if he was a lot shorter come post time. I really fancy him to go close tomorrow. So that's Tricolore in the 5:30 at Kempton, and I expect him to be there or thereabouts come the end. We then go my Longshot tomorrow, which runs in the 5:45 at Perth, the last race there, where I'm going with a horse here called Mead, Vale. Now you can currently get him at 13-2 with Bet365. I'm going to recommend an each way selection selection here for David Noonan and Nigel Hawke. Now this horse has got quite a lot of untapped potential, I think, still to come over staying trips, and is down to a really workable mark now of 100. Now last time we saw this horse, he finished 4th at Perth when he was just badly outpaced. However, he still stuck to his task that day and he was still finding, but he just lost to more speedier types. However, going back up to 3 miles tomorrow, I think will suit. If we actually go back through some of his form, his last victory came nearly 2 years ago when he was rated off 104 at Taunton. But ever since that victory, he was put up quite a lot in the weight and he was running off a mark of 114. So he's now 14 pounds below that mark, which suggests he's probably fairly well handicapped, and some of his best efforts when he was rated that high came over 3 miles. That included a second place effort in a better race than this at Ludlow back in 2019, so he does have some good form to his name. Also as well, Nigel Hawke does fairly well when he sends his horses up to Perth. Based down in the West Country in Devon, he wouldn't send them there unless he thought they had a chance. And I just think that this isn't a particularly strong race tomorrow. And with the 13-2, I think that's a fair each way bet there, and I can definitely see him going close. And I just think going up in trip tomorrow, 2-3 miles, is going to be the key to him. So, like I said there, off a mark of 100, I think he can be fairly competitive off that, and he's well treated on some of his old form. So, yeah, that's going to be the long shot tomorrow, and fingers crossed he can be there or thereabouts come the end. So, yeah, they're the 4 tips for tomorrow's racing. Quickly just recap on them. In the 3:35 at Newmarket, we go with Withhold as the nap at 2-1 win only bet. We then go with the extra tip, which is Saluti in the 4:20 at Pontefract, 5-1 win only bet. We then go to Kempton for the nursery there with my next best in the 5:30 with Tricolore, 5-1 win only bet. And then we go with my last tip, which is my long shot with Mead Vale in the 5:45 at Perth. And we recommend him at 13-2 each way. So they're the 4 tips for tomorrow's racing. If you haven't done so already, please make sure you hit the subscribe button here for more videos on my YouTube channel. Also as well, if you don't follow me on Twitter already, make sure you do, where my handle is at LuckyLoader15. And if you want to find out a little bit more about myself, why don't you check out my website, which is www.chrisloaderracing.co.uk. So please gamble responsibly. Hopefully we can be back amongst the winners tomorrow, and we'll be seeing you soon.